Hi, this is Paul Green, and welcome to Martial Logic. First off, I want to apologize for this getting up late. We had some software problems. Normally, I want to, try to get these uploaded every Friday and have something current. The equipment that we were using was about 10 years out of date. It probably should have been replaced a couple of years ago, and finally just bid it. It's one of those deals where you have something that works well, and it's kind of like, you have a car that's paid off. You want to drive it till the wheels fall off of it. And, that's basically what happened. The wheels fell off yesterday. This is actually the third time that I've filmed this episode. The first time I filmed it, it was loaded onto that laptop. That laptop crashed and we lost everything. Everything's gone. Then the second time we filmed it was with the new equipment, which I'm using now, and it's better equipment, but I still don't know how to use it very well. And after we finished recording, there wasn't any sound. We didn't have anything, so I'd screwed something up, and so now it looks like we got this working. Like I said, with it being the third time I've filmed it, I'm kind of aggravated with it, and kind of makes you just want to F-bomb everything inside and get drunk and expose yourself. But I don't plan on doing that. But at the same time, it's the morning, it's still early. We'll see what happens. Possibly. But to get right to it, this episode is called the Jigsaw Juxtaposition, and what that basically means is just kind of a cool way of saying you take things that are kind of similar and you put them side by side to compare them, and that's what we're going to do with this episode. And I wanted to do this one first. I had others that people would ask me to do first, but I wanted to do this one first for the simple reason that I think it's important to set context and definition. I go and I look at a lot of social media, a lot of threads, and and people have a tendency to get on these things and theorize and wax philosophical about these things, and and I don't so much worry about the constituents that are looking at it, but you have people that are looking at these threads, may not be posting, or maybe a little intimidated, but they're still taking the information away from them. And I feel like a lot of times in social media, when people are kind of just putting something out there, they're not really thinking about every person that'll see it. And a lot of times you have people talking about certain subjects that honestly I feel like they're not qualified to do. They have something missing, and it's because things aren't clarified. They're not put in the right context, and people don't define what they do. And what happens is it confuses other people. And you have people, putting misinformation out. Excuse me. It is still, pretty early in the morning. But it causes a lot of problems. It's one of these deals where you go on threads and you see, two people arguing about the same thing, but they're using different terminology, but they'll argue about it all day long. Or people talking about different things, but they're using the same word, and they'll argue about it all day long because, shit just doesn't match. So what I wanted to do with this one is, take three things. And what I want to talk about is self-defense, martial arts or flat-out fighting, and defensive tactics. These are things that people, all run together as one thing, and you have people that do one but don't do the other two, and vice versa. And they may be an expert in one and not know jack shit about the other two, but they're going to talk about them like they invented it, And they're three completely different things. They're seemingly related, but they are extremely different. They have different goals. They require completely different tactics to be successful to reach those goals. Now, these are my definitions for these. Other people, may have other definitions for them, and that's fine. But they need to clarify and define what it is they do so that other people don't get confused and they don't end up giving somebody the wrong information and causing them to get hurt or spread misinformation to someone else. At the core of what we do, it should be to educate and it should be to help people. If what we're doing and we're saying something in a jacked up way that's hurting somebody, we don't need to be doing it. And it's not that I think that a lot of people are being malevolent or something in doing this. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and I feel like in the modern era, there's a lot of pressure seemingly on everyone to do everything and know everything about everything. And A, you're never going to know everything about everything. No one is. And B, you don't have to be good at everything. Me personally, I specialize in defensive tactics. I do have a martial arts background. Since been doing jiu-jitsu since 1977. It's currently 2013. But I'm good at that. But I chose to go in defensive tactics. And that's what I do. I know some things about the others, but I generally don't like to comment on those. Leave that up to people that do just that. If I were going to do some of the others, well, I already have the knowledge to do the martial arts. But if I were going to do self-defense training for something, that would require further research. Before I would be able to do that. It's just everybody has their specialties. I'm actually a certified law enforcement instructor with the Arkansas Commission on Law Enforcement Standards and Training. But that's what I do. So I want to start this off by talking about self-defense. And to me, real self-defense, if it's a self-defense situation, it's going to be a situation where you're having to fight to flee. It could be, in a woman's case, it could be like a rape or sexual assault, type of a situation. It could be where somebody, brandished a weapon and you're trying to run. It could be several different situations. And every situation is different. I have a peeve about people talking about, you have like a lot of people that push knife fighting courses. They're going to be like, this is what happens in a real knife fight, or even, self-defense or combatives courses. This is what happens in a real fight. There's no such thing as a real knife fight or a real fight. That's bullshit. That's marketing. There's no such thing as either one of them, because if you're there and it's happening, it's real. And attacks are random. Attacks are 100% random. We did one, oh crap, I can't remember the exact name of it. It's on the site. It was something about knife defense myth and propaganda or something like that. And at the beginning, we had a video of someone doing a knife attack where the guy just kind of runs in and stabs the guy and knocks him down. Whatever the guy does, he can't defend against it. And then the thing was, this is what a real knife fight looks like. Then we proceeded to show actual footage of real knife fights, where it wasn't staged in a martial arts dojo. It was an actual real knife fight where people got hurt and injured. None of them looked like that. Now, real fights do happen the way that they showed it, but that's not the only way they happen. Just like people push, you want to learn how to fight and defend yourself for real. Well, first of all, attacks are random, and every one of them they're as different as the fingerprint on your hand. People like to try to look up statistics and everything to prove that they're not. Don't believe them. I'm not gonna, get into the whole statistic thing right now. We have a separate episode that we're going to be doing on statistics and and other things, and I'm going to cover it then. And the likelihood that the person will have a weapon or not have a weapon, and all that kind of stuff. Really, if you get down to it, it's environmental. It depends on where you are. But like I said, that's another episode. Right now, we're going to talk about self-defense. And as I said, to me, self-defense is about fighting to flee. because I understand that with the stand your ground thing coming out and everything, that's really kind of muddied the waters. I personally don't like stand your ground. I don't like it at all. I understand um, why some people felt like it, that they needed that, because what you were having was a situation where someone gets attacked, and if they get the upper hand in the altercation, and they stay and beat the crap out of the guy, that guy could sue them. But with stand your ground, he can't. I understand why, but my problem with stand your ground is that it can basically talk you into staying in a situation that you're better off if you had have left it. Because any violent conflict, the longer that you stay a part of it and allow it to continue, the more of a chance that it's going to be that you're going to be injured, that you're going to get hurt really, really bad. That just gives someone else more of an opportunity to hurt you. Um, you know, it, if you can leave a bad situation, you should do it. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. And That's my opinion about that. An example of it that I think we gave in the print version of this episode was, there's a party, and and I'll say it again during this article. It should be a mathematical formula. If you take alcohol plus insecurity, equals stupidity, and once again I'm going to mention it again. But you have a girl at a party, has to use the bathroom, goes upstairs, and there's a guy who's been eyeballing her the whole party, and he goes up there and flirts with her when she comes out, kind of blocking her way, won't let her go downstairs. And and she's like, hey, I'm not really interested. I mean, with the party and everything, everybody's drunk. I want to do something, da da da. Whatever. And puts his hands on her. She claws his eyes, runs down the stairs, and and gets the hell out of there. That is self-defense. Now, as far as tactics used during it, it's not going to make a whole hell of a lot of sense for her to, you know, grab his arm and do a flying armbar or some bullshit. In a self-defense situation, from a strategical standpoint, grappling doesn't make a lot of sense. At least standing. If you are pinned on the ground, you may or may not have to do something to get the person off of you, and something might come into play there. But for standing, grappling keeps you there longer. It's better for self-defense situations, in my opinion, to use more target acquisition. Use, attack the throat, the eyes, the nose, the ears, things like that. If you can't get to those directly, the inside of the leg, the groin, the instep, to maybe bring the hands down to open up a highline target. That tends to make a lot more sense to me than trying to grapple someone in a self-defense situation. I just don't think it's a very good idea. I'm going to take a break for a second just to test the equipment, make sure it works, and then I will be right back with you. Okay, and we're back. I just said this when I recorded this yesterday. It was like 40 minutes long, and I got ready to load it into the software and everything to get it ready for the internet, and had no sound, so I didn't want to do a whole other big long thing and at the end of it not have anything. At the second time, the freeze frame on the first file, has got me looking like this. I'm like, oh, that's pretty attractive. I hope when it loads up, it shows the emblem instead of that. Otherwise, no one would click on it. It kind of looks like the expression it would make if I'm in the produce section at Walmart and somebody farts or something. Just like it's like, ooh, that's not good. No, we don't want that. So anyway, to continue, um, we're talking about the tactics and how the situation dictates it. And once again, in a real self-defense situation, I can't really see a use for a whole lot of grappling. And that's kind of what kicked off me writing the print article eventually, originally, was that there was someone on there talking about striking versus grappling, and they were they were self-defense instructor, but they were talking about something that was more defensive tactics, that wasn't their background. And they said a lot of stuff that I felt was really ignorant, and really kind of closed-minded, and didn't really fit what they do. And and I kind of questioned their qualifications to be talking about it. But for a self-defense situation, like I said, I don't think grappling's a great idea. The next situation that you are going to run into is just martial arts or fighting, and this causes a lot of arguments, because I'm going to say this, but I'm going to explain it. Martial arts is not necessarily self-defense. It can be, but it depends on how on how you teach it. With self-defense, a lot of the things that are going to be important, your best self-defense is not being where violence is in the first place. Awareness, avoidance, verbal de-escalation, things like that are incredibly important. You don't see that taught a lot in martial arts dojos. It's mainly, you're taught fighting. Just, straight up. They go in, you spar twice a week, roll around on the ground and things like that. That's fighting. Self-defense is situational. Generally, what you're learning in these types of dojos is not. It's based on one situation. A situation that can happen. But it's not what I would call a self-defense situation. To me, it's just flat-out fighting. That does not mean that a martial arts instructor cannot be a really good, top-notch self-defense instructor. They can, but they've got to change and they've got to modify some things. If it's self-defense, and you're doing a self-defense course, to me, it has to, contain tactics that can be learned that day and be used. You should be able to teach somebody something in an hour or even 30 minutes, that can save their life. Whereas a martial art dojo, you're learning developmental skill, something that people are going to come there twice a week or more, and over time they learn it and they can use it, and they could use that for self-defense, but it takes a lot longer. And like I said, it's not as situational. Generally, what you find in these martial arts dojos is just straight up fighting, sport or otherwise. And now I'll talk about that a little bit, because coming from a background, in bouncing and, private security, personal protection, stuff like that, I've seen a lot of fights, whole bunch of fights. I also used to go to parties a lot and things, when I was a lot younger. I wouldn't be caught dead doing it now, but when you're, in your early 20s and you're getting out and you're getting around, you do things that, you wouldn't do when you're, older and know better and actually have something to lose. But it was as common as you find, water in the ocean, that you go to one of these parties, and once again, alcohol plus insecurity equals stupidity. You have, I think the example I gave in a print article, I gave two guys, two redneck names like Cletus and Big Earl. Cletus is at a party and sees Big Earl talking to some girl that he likes, and he don't like that. He thinks that, maybe, he should whoop Big Earl's ass. Well, Big Earl don't think Cletus can whoop his ass, and so then they go outside to see who can whoop who. And like I said, in this part of the United States, the southeastern United States, I'm actually in Alabama. It's as common as you find water in the ocean that you see these things happen in that environment. Because once again, violence is, to me, the types of violence that you see is environmental. People, try to, say statistically, this is more likely to happen to this one. It depends on where you're at. You're more likely to get attacked walking from Walmart to your car talking on the cell phone than you are standing actually in the line to get checked out. It's environmental. You can say, well, 90% of the time this happens. That's a big general thing. Violence is environmental. or the type of violence. There's certain areas of the country you're more likely to get stabbed than you are shot. Um, you're more likely to run into a skilled fighter working in a bar next to an MMA school than you are in church on Sunday morning. It's environmental. But getting back to Cletus and Big Earl, so they go out there and they fight. I wouldn't refer to what they're doing as a self-defense situation. To me, it's just a fight. They're straight up fighting. And then you get, into tactics and goals with that. Well, the goal is to kick the other guy's ass. Whether, that's going to continue is going to be based on how you handle it and the tactics that you use. And once again, excuse me, Jesus, I'm going to have to stop and get some water. It's going to depend on the types of tactics that you use, and it upsets me when I see it a lot. People say there's no rules in street fighting. Really? Well, contact your attorney general, because I got news for you. There's rules in street fighting, and if you don't believe they are, then they can explain them to you while you're sitting in jail. For a pretty long time. There are a lot of rules in street fighting. Regular legislative rules, and then there's social, deals. In self-defense, if is where it's like a criminal type thing. If you're poking somebody in the eye, or punching them in the throat, or grabbing genitals, or something like that to save your life, it's not a big deal. That you do that. If you do that where you're in a social environment, where this person's got friends standing around, and maybe you got friends standing around, it could end up really, really bad for you. It could incite other people to jump in. One thing that people don't understand about the bystander effect, which we'll cover more later. But if people standing around see the person being violated as part of their peer group, they're much, much more likely to jump in. At the same time, you can use like these, so-called dirty tactics, and you're going to be a social pariah. This is one of the things that leads to, what you see in a lot of fights, which is the fallout is much more dangerous than the fight itself. When somebody says, "Man, he didn't fight that guy fair, man. I mean, that's nasty, man. We're going to kick that guy's ass, and then you're coming out of Jack's restaurant or something, some Saturday night, and you get beat half to death in the parking lot, and without any warning, because of something you did 2 weeks ago. It happens. It happens a lot. At the same time, your friends. Damn, man, Dave, man, I thought he was a cool guy, man. I mean, he was like grabbing that guy's nuts and stuff, fighting him dirty, man. I mean, he's a punk, man. He ain't nobody, fuck that guy, man. I don't want to be around that guy no more. It could cost you friends. So to say there's no rules in street fighting, bullshit. At the same time, let's say, you drop the guy in a street fight, you just take him down, not punch him. And you're holding him down. You got friends there. He's got friends there, so there's not a big danger of somebody jumping in or something like that. Let's say you got people there, so it's kind of equal. And you're holding this guy down. He's trying to take your head off, and you subdue him, and you're sitting there talking to him. Hey, man, we don't need to do this, da da da. You might gain friends from that. You might even split a six-pack later. I've seen that happen too. Two guys get in a fight in the parking lot, and then 2 hours later they're sitting up at the bar buying each other beer. I've seen it a lot. So how you handle yourself in those types of situations matters. And the situation is going to dictate. If you're there by yourself and you don't know anybody and somebody's messing with you, leave. I mean, don't let ego, get you in trouble. Leave. Just get the hell out of there. Leave. At the same time, if you can't leave, then what? Maybe it's a different situation. Maybe it does become a self-defense situation. To where, you're like, man, I was there, I was scared, I didn't know anybody, all these people were there, thought I was going to get jumped, I did what I had to do. Anybody can understand that. But at the same time, if it's more of a social, environment, you got to be really, really careful about what you do. Um, and know that going in, and train for those type of environments. That's where, it's good to train, in good striking and good grappling too. It could, make you some friends someday, or we could get rid of some. It just, it just depends. Every situation is different. But my point, being, with that one, there's always some overlap. Um, some could start out as a fight and turn into a more of a self-defense thing. If it gets out of hand, if it escalates, somebody draws a weapon in the middle of it. A lot of things could happen. So, I mean, but basically, that particular type of a situation, in like martial arts or whatever, if you're martial arts expert, you're basically training somebody for fighting. And then if you want to train them for self-defense, learn some awareness and avoidance strategies, verbal de-escalations, how to teach them, do stuff that's more scenario-based instead of just focusing on sparring. And then, you take those skills and learn them, and you'll have a good self-defense program probably. The last one that I want to cover is, defensive tactics. And to me, defensive tactics are going to be more for a professional type environment, like a law enforcement officer. And the situation being that, well, let me set this up first. You have a police officer pulls pulls somebody over, and it looks like they've been drinking. Well, he takes them out of the car and gives them, a standard field sobriety test. They flunk it bad. So he goes to arrest them for a DUI, and they resist. Would you think it would make sense for that officer to, poke the guy in the eye because he resisted and start running down the interstate screaming for help? No. That just sounds stupid. I mean, that's the no. You're the police officer. You've got to win, and you can't run no matter what. Especially if you're like a state trooper, highway patrol, DPS, depending on what state you're in. Help could be pretty far away. It's almost the opposite of a self-defense situation, because with self-defense, you're fighting to flee. With defensive tactics, you're fighting someone who's trying to flee, more than likely. Not so much in a jail setting, but, those people are fighting to fight. They know they're not going anywhere. But, that being said, so, you have to put hands on them. So, in that type of a situation, restraints, grappling, those types of things become more important. Because what is your ultimate goal? Your ultimate goal is getting in cuffs, getting in the car. Standing out on the side of the road fist fighting generally ain't going to get that done. A, he might be better than you, and you get knocked out and get your gun to it and get shot. C, even if you're better than him and you got people with an iPhone, even if everything that you did was legal, it's still going to cause your department problems if they post that on the internet and you up there doing it. It's going to cause you a lot of paperwork and a lot more grief if you just done something else. So to me, with that kind of stuff, restraints, controls, and grappling, become much more important, because A, I don't want him to flee. I've got to get my hands on him or he's going to run. Then I could end up, having to discharge a taser and having to fill out a whole lot more paperwork with that. Some departments have to fill out more than others, but so if I can get my hands on him quick, that's going to be, your better tactic, just based on what my general goal is at the end. And that's what we do. It pisses me off because I see people talking about restraint and controls that really don't know what restraint and controls are. Generally, when you say restraint and controls, people thinking you're talking about just learning a bunch of wrist locks. Well, wrist locks are real low success rate, because all they have to do is exploit the weakness of the thumb and they can get out. It's not that big of a problem. A restraint and control technique is any technique where you're restraining or controlling someone. It has nothing to do with any direct part of the body. One of the restraints or controls that I use is I control the head, which technically can be a restraint and control technique. If I, grabbing a guy's arm and he jerks his arm away, like if I'm going in to cuff him or something, and and he jerked his arm away to keep me from doing it. Well, I grab his head, yank it to my chest, and it's more ergonomic. It gives me better control over him. And yank his head to my chest sideways. I usually block off an arm or try to trap it or something like that. And one torque with the hips, and he's on the ground, and I still have control of him by his head. At that point, generally an arm goes up, and you can grab it and go ahead and finish with your cuffing. It's not that bad of a problem. I've trained a lot of officers in it. A lot of officers have used it, still used to this day, and they've been very, very successful with it. And it is the way we use it. It is a restraint and control technique. For someone to say restraint and control techniques don't work, that's ignorant. That's incredibly ignorant to make a statement like that, because if restraint and control techniques didn't work, then jails would be empty, because no one would ever be able to get cuffs on anyone, or at least people that were non-compliant. So all your really, really, really super violent criminals would all be on the streets because restraint and control techniques supposedly don't work. Well, the fact is they work all the time. And for someone to say restraint and control techniques don't work, no, your restraint and control techniques don't work. Restraint and control techniques work if they're applied correctly. And this, like I said, this is what kind of kicked off me to write this in the first place, was like somebody talking about striking versus grappling. And they were someone from a striking background. They were self-defense instructor. Didn't know anything about defensive tactics. I know because I've seen them try to do it and they suck. They're not very good at them. You generally have people that come from one background. And, just going to a grappling class and picking up some moves to put into your program is not going to get it done. It has to flow logically with what you already do. If it doesn't, it's not going to work. It takes a lot more work, than what most are willing to put into it, to get it, or at least to figure it out. Or they can take a course like mine, and I can show them how to do it in 2 days. The stuff works. Period. There's been too many people that have used it correctly for it, to not work. But that being said, people that come from a striking background, and then they decide, oh, I want to teach police, and then find out, well, damn, I need to learn some of this stuff to put in my program. They just go to a grappling class and spend some time doing it, and trying to learn the stuff. But it's generally like more of a sportive grappling, not for the street, and they try to modify it and they can't pull it off, and then they decide to criticize it. This is basically a form of cognitive dissonance known as adaptive performance formation. And let me make sure I got the name of this guy right, because it was a Norwegian guy that actually formulated it, and I like to give proper credit, and I don't want to get this guy's name wrong. So give me just a moment. There we go. A Norwegian social and political theorist named John Elster. But basically, his name was John. I could not think of his last name. But adaptive performance formation. First of all, what is cognitive dissonance? Cognitive dissonance is something that's been around since Earth has been around. I run into it a lot in my field. What cognitive dissonance is basically is, things have been done a certain way for a long time. And somebody comes along and says, hey, I think I may have a better way of doing that. And nobody listens to them because they're like, no, it's been done this way for this long, and we're going to continue to always do it this way. Fuck you, and you get a lot of resistance for it. And that's cognitive dissonance. Adaptive performance formation is a form of it, where basically somebody wants something. They try to get it and they can't attain it in the time that they feel like, that they should. So instead of, working and getting the extra time in there to get it, or doing further research, they just say to hell with it, I want to do what I want to do, and then they just criticize it. Well, that doesn't mean it don't work. That just means you don't have enough patience, or enough understanding. That's on you. It's just that simple. That's on you. The biggest example, you see it. I think Wikipedia used it, and there's other people that use it, and everything else of adaptive performance formation. Um, would be the old Aesop's fable, the fox and the grapes, and basically, a fox sees some grapes and they're up high, and he wants to get them and can't get them. So instead of trying to figure out how to work a ladder or something, he just says, well, maybe they're not ripe or they're too sour or whatever. They're not worth my time because he can't figure it out. Well, just because he said to hell with it, that doesn't make it so. Um, and just because people went through a really shitty restraint and control program taught by somebody who just knows a bunch of wrist locks or whatever, it doesn't mean that all restraint control programs are bad and ineffective. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of really, really, really good ones out there. So be very leery of people that would criticize something like that. Because they generally don't know what the hell they're talking about. And this, once again, gets into somebody that, does one of the three things, and they think because they did one of these three things that it makes them a super genius at the other two. It doesn't. It doesn't. And for people watching this, when you go on threads, look at somebody's background. Now, like I said, some self-defense instructors, are also martial artists, and they could, know a lot about defensive tactics and know a lot of stuff that can work. It doesn't mean that they don't know, but it should make you question it. Um, there's people that are really, really good at all three. Um, but then there's people that specialize. Just because you're good at one doesn't mean you know jack shit about the other one. And that's just a fact. Um, I've said it, time and time again. Any asshole can get a blog on the internet. This one did, I got a blog on the internet. It doesn't take anything. All you got to do is go on there and register, and you can write anything you want to, and look as intellectually sound as you want to, and it doesn't make it so. It just, it takes research, it takes time, it takes energy, and it takes honesty, being honest with yourself on what works, what doesn't work. If something that, I came into it with a preconceived notion isn't working the way that it should, I need to be honest with myself, say, hey, this thing I believed in isn't really the right thing, and I need to change it, and then do it. Follow through with it, be consistent with it. But I'm going to go ahead, and wrap this up for now. Um, so what I really wanted to do, in conclusion here, is establish some kind of some type of a context and definition for things that we're going to be doing later. Um, to those instructors out there, I would say be very, very clear in what you're talking about. Define, take the extra time, because you never know who's reading your stuff. So you want it to be as honest and truthful as it can be. Um, and sometimes, you have to, maybe dumb something down a little bit. I mean, it just, take the time, put the effort in. We got to do right by people. There's people out there that depend on us. They depend on us to get them the right information, and we need to do it. And for, people out there that are looking for information that aren't instructors, they're just wanting to learn something. When you're looking at these threads in social media, anything you see on a thread, take it with a grain of salt. I mean, seriously. Just because, they're on Facebook and they have a nice page with a nice logo doesn't mean they know their ass from a toilet seat. It really, really doesn't. It's one of the reasons that, I decided, to write this book that I'm, we're paraphrasing, for these videos, is that in this day and age, whether it be, in safety training or politics or religion or anything else, you just don't know who to believe anymore. Statistics are biased. Statistics lie all the time. The one thing you can, count on is logic, because logic is consistent, when it's applied correctly. Logic should run through martial arts. The same logic you should be able to apply to real life, and in your daily lives, and the logic should be the same. And books like the one that I'm working on are designed to help people to cut through all the bullshit. to get to the part that makes sense where everyone can understand it. That's what that to me. That's what an artist is. The difference, you know, I kind of go with Charles Bukowski's definition of it. To paraphrase, he's said, an artist is somebody that takes something hard and makes it simple so everyone can understand it and benefit from it. An intellectual by nature is elitist who want to take something really easy to understand and make it hard so only them and their elitist friends can enjoy it and benefit from it. I would prefer to be an artist, and that's what we're going to try to do here. So thank you for your time, and be safe out there. And next Friday, we're going to have something new for you. Thanks.